I'm Dirk. I work for Google, and looking at the crowd right now, I would say many people of you are tired of work and want to focus on fun. Excellent. That's not what it's about. So when I created this title, this was actually like a 1-minute thing. This was what I think about. So I'm not talking about not doing work. I'm going to talk about how we can get rid of all this really tedious work that we do every day over and over again and focus on the actually important stuff. I'm not going to focus on the important stuff. I'm going to focus on the tedious stuff, or how to get rid of. So I thought, OK, this is a little long, so I went back to this. Let's focus on the fun. So who's heard about build scripts? Who's ever used a build script? Loads of you. How many people like writing build scripts? Yeah, me neither. But the reason why they're there is because good developers are lazy. And the fact that you all know about this means you're a really lazy pack out there. Excellent. It's a fact. This is one of my absolute favorite charts. I'm not sure if you could see it well. I try to get a little good contrast in there. It basically shows you that everybody starts doing something over and over again. And then the clever geeks at one point say, this is tedious, let's write a script for that. And they keep doing it. And at one point, they're done. And when they're done, they win over the one who keeps doing the same things. I hope we can end all being that clever geek at the end. So there's been build scripts for a long time. Everybody who's been in software engineering basically used to do some build that does the compilation, that adds all the information stuff. And there are loads of them out there. This is the really small stuff. That's the stuff that I used to work with. I used to work with Make. I used to work with Rake. And Maven. There's loads of them. I guess you probably know most of them. And there's loads of them. And they're all great and powerful and all. But they're butt ugly. They look like this. This is Ant. This is doing nothing but minimizing a little JavaScript into something more little. And I've been writing this, and it's painful. It's not fun. It's really bad. Who has ever been writing Ant scripts? We do the same thing again. Who enjoyed this? Yes, there's a good reason for that. Because nobody really likes configuring XML. Not at all. Also, I'm a front-end developer, so I don't really write Bash or Shell. I mean, I do it, but I don't really enjoy it. I like JavaScript. In fact, I love JavaScript. And I can't really get along with writing big amount of XML. I keep working with it, and I keep breaking it, and it's getting worse and worse. Don't let me ever approach your XML. So, and I only realized this when we prepared this talk. It's been just a year when Ben Elman actually launched Grunt. And it was a great favor to all of us. Because JavaScript is a language I personally enjoy writing. And looking at you, you might be the same kind of crowd. So that's what I did. Someone actually did a JavaScript build script. Thank you very much. And it's written on Node. Everybody else Node. I've been using it for a while, so it's already on my computer. It's just there. And it's rather easy to get. It's also using NPM, which is the Node package module manager. My God. And which means it's really easy to republish what you wrote for it. And which means in just that 1 year, there's already a massive publication of really good modules that you can just use like that. Which means people are using it. One of the first ones, actually, jQuery started using it before it was released, because he was actually working close with the jQuery team. So everything that is in jQuery right now is running through Grunt to build it. And it's being stitched together from 100 little pieces, and it works just fine. Modernize is doing the same thing. Adobe has a tool that does it. Twitter's using it with Bower. And yes, I'm using it internally as well. Because it's easy. So let's start setting up the system. And it's really easy. You download your Node package from Node.js. That used to be hard. It's just one little compilation anymore. Download, install, and it's done. And then you can do this. You run npm install grunt. And you don't install grunt anymore. So I got to tell you, I only just rewrote this talk. Because I wrote it about a month ago, when I thought, oh yeah, I'm far ahead, let's do this. Let's not do this from last minute for a change. And then Grunt changed from 0.3 to 0.4, and the whole API changed. Don't worry, this is not going to happen again, because the way that I change it right now is that it's not going to happen again. So basically what this does is it's not installing Grunt. It's installing the Grunt command line interface. And that is basically just a pointer. So you can use the Grunt keyword on your command line, and then it uses the locally installed Grunt version, which is great. I'm going to tell you why it's great. The problem we had before, if you used Grunt in a team, is that basically everybody could have a different version of Grunt installed. And when they run Grunt against the build script that was there, that might mean that it's doing something entirely different for them than for you. By doing this, you're pointing to a locally installed Grunt version that comes with your source. That means no problems anymore. Yay. I heard that. So let's keep on setting up the project. It basically needs two files that are important. First, of course, the Grunt file itself. The Gruntfile.js is the file that describes what you want Grunt to do. The other file is the package.json. Let's start with the package.json. This is what a package.json looks like. It's taken from one of my open source projects. It's a little tab script, never mind about that. And you can see it's really just a teeny tiny bit of JSON that defines a couple of teeny tiny things. First, the name. Name in this case must not contain any spaces, otherwise it's fine, or special characters really. A version using the semantic format, so you can see where we're going with that. A homepage, at this point pointing to GitHub. And then everything else is really optional in terms of the author. That's just me being vain here, putting my name out there. And the last part, that's the part that is really, very important for Grunt. It's the def dependencies. I'm going to go into that. So what Grunt gives you is variables. So first up, this file you can load into your Grunt file, and there you can use every node in your JSON file and play around with it. You can render things into your HTML, into your JavaScript. It does just work. And the def dependencies is what I just talked about. That will hold every node module, every npm module that you added to your Grunt file, allowing you to really easily reinstall it, which is cool. So this is the same file again. Let's install Grunt. And this is now actually installing Grunt. What it does is, when I look at the --save def at the end, what this means is, first, install Grunt, and install Grunt locally into my project folder. And by saying --save def, it means add yourself to my def dependencies. So next time I'm going to install, or maybe your team colleague needs to install this, they get the exact same version, and nothing's going to break. Because then what's happened is this. It just added itself to the def dependencies group with a tilde, which means it's smaller from 0.4 onwards. Everything that's newer is cool as well. That's what it does by default. And everything that you add like that will automatically turn up here. And I highly recommend doing this because you never have to think about it again. And I like not thinking about it because I'm lazy. So this is all I need to do, or your colleague, in case they want to reinstall what you just have. You just go into the same folder and run npm install, and everything that's in the def dependencies will just magically appear. Beautiful. Now let's go to the Grunt file, which is where the magic happens. Yay. OK. So remember that end file you saw earlier that was minimizing a JavaScript file? This is doing the same thing in Grunt. And I'm not sure how you feel, but I can read this. And I can understand what it says, and it's beautiful. So let's look a little into it. Again, remember. You do remember, right? Yeah. Back to Grunt. So this is the whole file. This is everything it needs in the Grunt file. But of course, this is not actually everything that you need to write over and over again, because what we have here is the Grunt wrapper. So what we're using here is a common.js module, and you only need to do this once. You start your file with it, and you end your file with it, and everything else you can then repeat into it and keep adding more things. It's really, really cool. So what it creates a new module, it inits Grunt, and basically just keeps passing little modules like this. So what we're using here is Uglify. Uglify is a beautiful little open source product which minifies JavaScript, and it does it really well. And it has a Grunt plugin, which is really nicely maintained. So this is what I'm using here. And all I need to do is I'm going to load. So at the very bottom, actually, let's read this the other way around. At the very bottom here, I'm loading the npm task. What happened here is by installing the Grunt Uglify, the Grunt contrib Uglify plugin using npm like we saw earlier, we have a new folder that contains the actual program. You never have to touch that ever. It's just living there. But we need to tell Grunt, okay, this is where we load it. This is the name of the product. Just load it. And then we're going to pass configuration in it. And we're going to tell it, okay, I want to do some distribution here. And I'm going to, this is the most simple configuration you can get. It can get much more complicated if you want to, but you don't have to. So I'm passing the file that I want to have minified. I'm telling where I want it to end up. That's it. It works. Then I define, let's quickly go back. I have different tasks in Grunt that I use to do different things. So in this case, I'm defining my default task. The default task is the task that is being called when you just run Grunt, nothing else. That's being called. So in this case, I'm saying, okay, when I'm calling Grunt, run Uglify. So Uglify is being called. It knows about what it should do. It has all the files loaded, and it will work. Let's do this. Actually, this is very much my face here. Can you still hear me like this? That's a no. Yes? OK. So let's go to the marker. And this is readable. Is this still readable? Excellent. Because the screen is much smaller than I thought. OK. OK. This is my example. And you can see it's completely empty. There's nothing in there. Let's go ahead and add some files. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first create my package.json. And what I can do is I can use npm init to create it for me, so I don't have to write it myself. npm, again, Node Package Manager, is what is actually meant for the package.json. So this is what it gives me. I'm running it, and well, it gives me a lot of text. I'm going to get a little smaller even, so you can read it better. Is this still readable? I'm getting thumbs. Yeah. Is that cool? All right. So it first tells me what it does, and then it's going to ask me about the information that I want to enter. Actually, let me just a little over. This is better, isn't it? Yeah, like this. OK. So it's asked me for a name. That was the name that we saw earlier in our demo. So I'm going to call it, it's offering me examples. I'm going to call it example. So there it is, example. And it's going to be version 000, because I'm just starting up. Description, it's awesome. And it's going to have an entry point. We don't care about that. We're going to remove this later on. And we don't need a test command either. We don't need a Git repository right now. We don't need keywords. Author, I don't care about. License, this is fine. Yes, this is cool. So this is what's going to write for me. OK. So let's have a look. This is my example folder. It created one package file for me. Let's have a look into it. So there we are. That package.json was just created for me. Again, that's much bigger than I thought I need. Like this. Okay. So I actually created a couple of things that I don't really need. I don't need a main. I don't really care about the scripts here because I'm not actually writing anything in Node.js. Repository, I don't care. Auth, I don't care. License, in this case, I don't care either. This is all I need so far. Actually, even the description is optional. What I'm going to need, though, is that dev dependencies. So let's going to add that. Actually, I think it's going to add that for me as well. Let's be risky in this case. So, and as you can see, the folder is completely empty except my package.json. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first install Grunt into my project. Let's do this. npm install Grunt. And I'm going to do the -- dev save dev, right? You can see how often I'm writing this by hand. Basically never. And I'm on a standard OS X system, which means it's not going to run without sudo. So let's add sudo to that as well. And it's still failing because, let's see why it fails. I have a trailing comma? In the JSON? Oh, thanks for that. Yes. You're good. Let's try this again. And it's still getting warnings? No, it's running now. Excellent. First shock over. So that was good. Let's have a look what we have now. So now we suddenly have a folder called node modules, which contains Grunt. And again, we don't really have to care about this, but we know it's there and it's massive and it does everything that we need. So far, it does not do anything though. What it has been doing though, it added itself to the dev dependencies, like I hoped to. So now we actually have Grunt in our project. Now our project itself is not doing anything right now because it's really nothing but a package.json, but we can change that. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. First of all, this makes me happy. It just works. So, it's easy to add more. So far, we actually don't even have the minify. That's what I wanted to do. Let's see, I forgot it already. Let's go back. It's grunt contrib uglify. Let's install that. Any typos? Damn it. You're right. Let's do it again. Okay, there we are. Going back to the project, we now have uglify running in here as well. And we have another folder that contains the full uglify, including all the binaries and scripts that it needs to run. Beautiful. We still don't actually have a project, though. Never mind about that. Let's go ahead and use an existing one. So, I'm going to have this project. This is the accessible tabs that I was talking about earlier. And it's full of a lot of script and HTML. And I only just recently added Grunt to it. So it's a good example in this case. Okay, and now in the accessible tabs folder. And so, this is the file that I'm using. And again, there's the package.json, which contains a little more. What I already added here is uglify. Makes me happy, again. And it's easy to add more. I can go ahead and just add JS hint because there's a lot of JavaScript in there. And I want, of course, this JavaScript to work fine. So I'm adding this as well. You already saw how it will look like. And this is a little better from the contrast, so let's look at it here. What it will do is, in the most simple configuration, is it will go ahead and, where's my cursor? Okay, never mind, my cursor's not there. So JSHint will literally just look at every single JavaScript file in my configuration here. This is the most simple configuration you can do. You go ahead and tell it to lint everything, and it will lint everything. You just need to load the task and add it to your default task in there. So let's see how this looks like. The default task is going to run when I run just the grunt command. So I'm going to do this. So, and this is what happened. It linted my JavaScript file. It's only one file in there, and it's fine, luckily. It ran the uclify task to minify my JavaScript file. It ended up being one file. It actually saved quite something, which is cool. And then I did a couple of more things that I'm going into later. This is the most important part. It's done without errors. This is going to make you happy when it works, because you just need to have one comma. That apparently happens to me. And it's not going to work, so enjoy when it does. Who's been this far so far? It's not that many. How long did it take you to get this far? A day? A couple of minutes? Because it's easy. That's cool. So let's have a deeper look. So what you can also do is you can load image information from the package JSON, which is really, really handy because you don't want to write over and over again what your version number is. And I used to do this in the accessible tabs. I basically had the version number in the documentation. I had it in the script. I had it in the minified version. And before I added a build script, I just had to do it over and over again. Now I just read the information that is in the package JSON, which contains the information about the version, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to pass it into the uclify options. So this is the first option that you see. The uclify script here allows me to define a banner. And a banner is really just a little text information that it will automatically paste on top of your JavaScript file. In this case, it will contain the name of the package and the date it was created, which is already pretty handy. And it gives you quite some information if you download the file later on. So I'm also using this to no longer have to write the name of the file over and over again, because I'm just using it from the package, and I'm going to add it to the JavaScript file. So in this case, if I ever decide I need to rename something, in case I need to lowercase, uppercase, or just rename it completely, this is what's automatically going to take it over. Another thing that I found really, really handy is I can use the version that I just created to pack it in the file name as well, which is automatically helping me cache busting. Because I'm hosting this myself on a little static HTML page. And people ran into and saying, it's not working the way it's described, and then it was just the cache, obviously. So this is something that will automatically help you keep always the latest version of the JavaScript right fresh in your source. And you don't have to do anything for it. So a lot of CSS is there as well. And I'm just pushing through here because it's so simple. There's another module called CSS min, which I'm just going to install using npm. I'm going to install grunt contrib CSS min. I'm going to load the data from the file. I'm going to register it to my default task, and it will automatically run through the configuration that you can see. It's doing the same thing that JSmin did, uclify did. It used to be JSmin. And it's going to take the banner information that we already defined. We only have to do this once. And then it's going to run and take all the CSS files that I'm going to point it to. I'm going to do this manually here, but I could as well just define a asterisk.css and point it to a folder. In this case, I'm doing manually because I want to define the order that the CSS files are being loaded into, because you all know that it's rather important to have the right order of CSS files. And it's going to end up in one minified CSS file that's going to be much, much, much smaller. Really, really nice in this case. So, excellent question. I'm going to come to that. The question was if it works for less and Sass as well. I'm actually going into an example that uses exactly that, and yes, it works beautifully. Going further in the optimizations, images, of course, are a big thing as well. And I guess you all use something like image optim and files that you can use to compromise every single file over and over again. You don't have to do this either. It's going to do it for you. And it's working for JPEGs and PNGs in this case. So you only have to define the file name that the name of the image you want to optimize. And you can just override it, but I don't suggest you do that because you want to maybe have a file that is a Fireworks PNG that you still keep working on, and you just need to translate it into the optimized little PNG. Define a new dist source, which is what I'm preferring. I have my source and my dist, and just copy them over in the optimized version. You always have the optimized version in one folder and the working version in the other one. Works beautifully. It offers you multiple optimizations levels. I found that 3 is a rather good middle that actually looks fine, PNGs anyway, and JPEGs as well. And you're going to add it to your default task. Actually, this is something that I would probably not put on the default task because it would run it every single time. I'm going to show you how to define multiple tasks that are then allow you to basically do this once on distribution, which is much nicer. So there's much more. But actually, I'm rushing through here. Let's go back to the project and have a look at the Gruntfile. And the resolution is killing me. OK. Is this readable? Yes. So let's start from the top. We defined our Grunt module. We initialize Grunt and pass in the following. We load our package JSON, which we looked into earlier. Actually, let's open it at the same time. There's our Gruntfile, and our package JSON is here. So it contains all the information that we defined earlier, and we only have to define it once. When I update the version, I only do it in this one location, and it's going to be published into my JavaScript files, into my CSS files, and onto my README as well. And I'm going to define my banner up here. Now, this looks a little messy, but it really defines just the text that I would like the people to see when they download my JavaScript file. And it's really just, OK, this is the licensing, this is the version I'm on, so they know where to find it. I'm going to use this banner, defined it here. I'm going to use this banner in the uglify options. So even after minifying the file, it will still look fine. So let's have a look at it. This is my JavaScript file, my JavaScript folder. And you can see this is the file that I work on. It's all full of information, a lot of comments, and a lot of information that isn't really needed when it's distributed. And of course, it's not compressed. And this is what ends up being published to the user. And you can see it's highly compressed. It's down to one line, and it uses obfuscation to be as small as possible. And that's the banner that we saw. And it's probably hard to read, but it just tells on what link on GitHub you can find it, the copyright, and the licenses I'm using here, so people can use it for free. And this is done every single time I run the grunt command. It copies it and minimizes it from the tabs.js to the tabs main.js. Just works like that. What it also does every single time is it JS lints, or in this case I'm using JS hint because it's much more configurable. It's taste, but it works. So what I'm doing, I'm adding all this extra information because I want it to be rather strict about the way it lints. And I'm also adding the jQuery global so it doesn't rant about that. Let's see what it would do if I wouldn't do this. So I'm running the grunt command, and it doesn't care because I'm already predefining it. That was brilliant. Yes, you can see I changed this massively. Okay. Okay. What I'm also doing here for the first time, I'm introducing watch. And watch is a separate task. It used to be part of Grunt, and now it's a separate plugin. And what it does is, it allows me to define files that are constantly checked on. And actually, this is about the time I'm switching to a different project. I have to apologize. I was basically working on this since yesterday, and it used to look better. Okay, let's use HTML5 placeholder. Thanks, man. Okay. So this is not a project of mine, and I went a little further here. So again, I have the banner. I'm concatenating files here because I'm actually using more than one JavaScript. So this allows me using the concat task. Again, I'm using JSHint here. Here, I actually have to add two separate things because I'm defining I'm using a polyfill here that it's not automatically there. And I'm testing everything in JavaScript, and I'm testing the Gruntfile myself. So if I would go and invalidate my Gruntfile, this would finally, yes, there we are, give me a proper error. And if I would go back, it would work again. There we are. Arclify we spoke about, CSAdmin we spoke about. I'm doing something here for the first time that I haven't done in the others. I'm using the watch. Here it is for good. Sorry. Let's go to yet another one. I know this is terrible. I apologize. And I'm going to shamelessly blame my newborn son who has been sick all last week. And I'm not ashamed. Okay, last try. Yes, okay. So this is my resume, and this is actually the most recent one because I just recently worked on it to get the job I'm on right now. So this is one of the most recent files that I used with, so this should work fine. Let's have a look. So, beautiful. This actually answers your question as well. Let's go through. In this case, I'm doing Markdown rendering. So what I have here, I have, no, this wasn't the other one. Damn it. Okay, I'm going to confuse the hell out of you. Yeah, okay. In the polyfill, I had Markdown rendering. Because I was doing, I have what I'm using it for, I have okay. For GitHub, everybody creates their README Markdown file, right? So you can nicely see what it looks like. And on GitHub, this works beautifully because GitHub does it for you. So this is the project, and this is what it renders out of my beautiful Markdown, and it's basically my full documentation. Now, I don't want my Markdown that I write for GitHub have to translate to HTML over and over again. So I was looking around and found a nice plugin for Grunt. It does the same thing for me, and it actually does it rather nicely. It's the Markdown package here, and it's called just Grunt Markdown. It's a little outdated, but it still works beautifully in the latest version, so I hope it's going to be maintained for a long, long time. And I'm going to use my README file And I'm also going to use my version history, which I just recently moved out of the JavaScript file to work fine. So this file is my version history, which is just keep longer and longer. And my README, which is this massive file. So every time I'm going to run grunt on this, it's also creating Markdown. In this case, nothing has changed. But every time it does this, it's creating beautiful HTML format. And it's using my template I defined, which is basically just my header and my body. And it replaces the same thing it does in the grunt file as well. So this is a syntax here that you see in my grunt file as well multiple times, because it's using basically every file that is being touched by grunt, be it in compression, be it in a copy, or be it in the Markdown compiler. Everything that's in there will be replaced by the corresponding variable that may or may not come from the package.json, or you can actually define it in the grunt file itself and modify it as well, like the banner. And in this case, I'm using it to basically build out a website, which it wasn't really built for, but it works beautifully. Okay, one thing I keep running into, I bet other people are doing the same thing, is I quickly debug things, and I keep adding little alerts, I keep adding console logs. Who else is doing that? Who else accidentally left it in the code after they deployed? Yes. So as I keep running into this over and over again, I was looking for something that helps me with this, because I'm stupid. I'm lazy. And there's a little package for that. Of course there is. And what I'm going to tell it is I'm going to remove all the logging that you find. And again, that's in the other project. I'm doing brilliantly here, am I? Say again? Yeah, there we are. So I'm loading this plugin here. I'm going to tell him, okay, everything that you find in here that is a log, remove it. Yeah, it's pretty clever about that. Basically, everything that it finds that looks remotely like debugging data, it will alert. So actually, I left one in here, and it tells me every time that it removed that. Let's have a look what it did. Because I have, so in here, I have my own little debug function. And in here, I'm using one debug log. Well, it's actually not really painful, because I did this because I ran into it all the time, because it's not going to log, ever. However, it finds it and removes it, so I'm safe. I'm also adding this to every new project I'm working on, just to be sure, because I kept getting alerts from people on Internet Explorer who don't have a console and telling me, it's breaking, I don't know what it's breaking. Let's have a look. Of course, it's a console log. So, finally, your question from earlier. Yes, it works with Sass and Compass as well. In fact, it even takes the compilation out of your hands, which makes it really handy. Let's have a look how this works. And this is yet another project. So, in my resume again, what I'm doing here is I'm actually going a whole step further. So, I'm using Compass for it, and it's great fun. And I have all my size files here, and I'm compiling it over here. Beforehand, I did this on multiple different things. I used livereload as an application. I used Sass and Compass on a command line. And it all works, but of course it's all extra things you need to do. And working on a team, not on my resume, but on other things, I ran into people having to reinstall different tools, running out of the syncs files. So we finally decided on using internally one Compass compilation and use Grunt for that. For easiness, all I'm doing here is I'm pointing to the already existing config in Ruby. I could as well define everything in JavaScript again, but then again, some clever third party might come along and use a different script that is not Grunt, and all the configuration is lost. So I'm keeping it in the Ruby file, as simple as it is, and just referring it to it here. And to make it even more beautiful, I'm also adding livereload using Grunt, and which is the thing that makes me ridiculously happy, because it really, really works beautifully, and I never have to run any third-party tool ever again. Let's have a look how it looks. So I'm running Grunt here, and Grunt compiles. It compiles statically my CSS file from one to the other. What I want to do, though, is I want to reload my page automatically, because let's have a look how it looks. So this is my resume. Ignore, you don't have to hire me. But this is how it looks. So every time I'm changing something, actually, let's get rid of this terribly ugly red that I created up here, which I just did for the demo purposes. So I'm running Grunt again, it recompiles, and it's not that ugly anymore. Wonderful. So, but I have to do this over and over again. I don't like doing this over and over again. So what I did, I used livereload. And who knows livereload as a service, as an application? Wow, you should use livereload. This is a lifesaver. I'm going to tell you what to do. So usually this is just a little application. I'm going to show the application first because it's beautiful. And the resolution is so little, I don't find anything here. Oh, okay. I cannot actually reach it here. No, I don't reach it. Never mind. I'm going to show you what it does in Grunt. So in Grunt, it goes a little over the top. Because what it does is, it first creates a full server for you. It creates a little CMS that delivers your page and modifies a little JavaScript into it. And then it sets up another server that serves a file that reloads your page. I'm not going to go into details here because you can just believe me, it just works. What it does here, it just loads some extra middleware from the files we installed into the node first. And then I am defining the standard livereload port, which is standard all over the case. And I'm defining that I'm create a new page using Node Connect here as middleware. And by doing so, it allows me to register a new task. So remember, we have the default task here, which does nothing but JS hinting and compassing. It also now has a new task for server. And what I'm doing here is, when I start this is actually a long-running task. It's not going to finish like the Grunt task, just run through and stop. This is going to start up and keep running. And what it does is, it starts up my livereload server, it starts up my server that hosts my page, and it uses regard, which is a watch job. So what it does is, I have two different things that I want to do here. First, I want to detect if a JavaScript file has changed, and if that is the case, JavaScript hinted and do a livereload. And if a CSS file has changed, or rather a SCSS file has changed, because I'm only doing this here, I want you to compile it and do a livereload. So let's see how that works. I'm going to do a Grunt server, and it's falling apart. Can you believe it? No, it's not. Oh, yes, it does. Say again?
Something else is using that port.
Oh, because I started livereload earlier, didn't I? All right, there we are. So it's dead. Hallelujah. Okay, now that I killed the application livereload, I can now run my task livereload on Grunt. And what it does is, it now watches my JavaScript, my SCSS files, and it also serves me a little server on localhost. I'm just going to kill this. OK, this looks more like it. So this is the little server it creates for me, where it serves the files that I'm using. So there we are. So this is now being served through livereload. And let's go over here and do some changes. Let's gonna add the terribly ugly red back in, and that's what happened. It automatically reloaded. So let's quickly look at what actually happened behind the scenes. After I started my server, Regard started watching my JavaScript, my SCSS files, and then I did my change. And it detected that my resume CSS, my SCSS has been changed. It ran the Compass file, it updated the CSS file, and then it ran the live reload. So what this means, I can now go ahead and keep working, and it will just do everything for me. Yes?
It doesn't actually run Sass, or is it running the node Sass?
No, it's actually running Sass. So you install your Compass and your Sass locally, and it's going to use whatever you have there. Very good question.
I think if you could have also, this is Markdown basis, you could have dynamic change compilation.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm probably going to do this in this case as well as in the HTML5 polytype, because it really just helps. So the question was, I can do this with markup as well. So whenever I would now, on the other project, would recompile my markup just to right load as well. It doesn't matter. As long as I would add another listener to the file and define, I'm going to do the markup compilation first as well, this would work just as well. So what it also does is it takes away a lot of the things that you need to do to set up things. Scaffolding. So besides Grunt, there's also Grunt init. Grunt init allows you to set up projects in a very, very quick way. This is also something that used to be part of Grunt, but now was moved out so it can be developed quicker on the side and you don't have all those version conflicts anymore. So you install Grunt init, and this suddenly gives you templates that you can use to set up, well, Grunt files, Grunt plugins if you want to, jQuery plugins, and Node.js, and much, much more. It basically allows you to create a lot of things. You can also create your own templates. So if you have a project that you keep using over and over again, you basically can create your own little boilerplate. Actually, there's a boilerplate plugin as well. So let's have a look. Gonna kill this again. And so, on my example here. And it still has a little leftover. Let's delete that first. Because there's going to be a lot more to come in here. OK. So I'm going to do a grunt init jQuery, because I'm going to create a new jQuery plugin. And it's going to start asking me all kinds of questions. So we started earlier on the Gruntfile. This is going to be much, much more. Again, a project name, and we're going to call this, another. Project title, yes, I'm going to use what it gives me. Description, of course, it's the best jQuery plugin ever. It has a new version, it has a repository, it keeps asking, and I can just confirm because it's clever enough to take all the information I have already defined in my Git configuration. It knows me, knows my email, it does not know my URL. And I'm going to define, it's going to be jQuery 1.0.9. OK. Anything I need to change? No, I don't. So what happened? This happened. It created my full project scaffolding for me. I'm actually using this for everything that I'm doing in terms of jQuery code now, because it's so complete in terms of things that it needs. So, of course, it created my grunt file for me, it created my package.json for me, and you can see all the information I entered is there. It's all here. But it also went ahead and downloaded and installed jQuery for me in the version that I defined. And it created JavaScript unit tests for me and downloaded the necessary library. It created already the jQuery scaffolding for the module, so I can just start right away creating new. Actually, it already created the methods for me as well. And it also created the tests for me, which already test against this. So this is something that really pleases the lazy guy in every one of us. If you're writing jQuery plugins, you can actually focus on creating your functionality rather than everything around. Yes, we did that. This is what it gives us. Thank you very much.